She was never supposed to fall in love with polished marble, quiet music, security guards trained not to stare. She signed her name at reception. The pen felt heavier than it should have. Lena Hart. A fake identity attached to a real mission. The elevator doors closed, lifting her toward the top floor. Her reflection stared back at her in the mirrored walls. Calm face, steady breathing, perfect composure. Only her hands betrayed her, fingers curling slightly as memories pushed forward. Her brother laughing. His last phone call. His voice saying, "If anything happens to me, trust no one." The elevator chimed. 48th floor. Too late to turn back. Ethan Blackwood didn't look like the headlines. That was the first thing she noticed. He wasn't smiling for cameras or surrounded by assistants. He stood alone beside a massive window, city lights reflecting across his dark suit. Power radiated from him, not loud, not aggressive, controlled, like a storm waiting for permission. When he turned, his eyes locked onto hers immediately. Sharp, observant, tired, not the eyes of a villain. That unsettled her more than anything, because villains were easy to hate. Broken men were not. "You're late," he said. His voice was calm, low, almost uninterested. "I'm exactly on time," she replied. A faint hint of amusement touched his expression. Good, she thought. He expected intimidation. Instead, she gave balance. His attorney began speaking about contracts and public expectations, but Lena barely listened. She studied Ethan instead. The slight tension in his shoulders, the way he avoided unnecessary eye contact, the distance he kept even while standing only a few feet away. A man used to betrayal, a man who trusted paperwork more than people. Perfect and dangerous, because trust was exactly what she needed from him. "You don't want a marriage," she said suddenly. The lawyer stopped talking. Ethan's gaze sharpened. "You want control." The room went silent. For a moment she wondered if she had pushed too far. Then he smiled, not warmly, but knowingly. "And you," he said, "aren't here for money." Her heartbeat skipped once. He continued, "You read the building security layout when you walked in. Most candidates look at the art." She held his gaze. "So why pick me?" she asked. Ethan walked closer, slow and deliberate. Up close, she noticed faint exhaustion beneath his composed exterior, the kind that came from sleepless nights, not long meetings. "Because," he said quietly, "you're the first person who isn't pretending to like me." The honesty caught her off guard. For a second, her mission blurred. She forced herself back into focus. This man might have destroyed her brother's life. Remember that. He slid the contract toward her. 6 months, he said. Public marriage. Private independence. No personal questions, no personal questions. Convenient for both of them. Lena skimmed the pages. Every clause was airtight. Except one. "What happens after 6 months?" she asked. Ethan's expression hardened almost invisibly. "We walk away. Simple. Clean. Emotionless. Exactly what she needed. Exactly what she told herself she wanted." She picked up the pen. Outside, thunder rolled across the city. For a brief moment, hesitation crept into her chest, a quiet instinct whispering that this decision would change more than her investigation. It would change her. She ignored it. Signed her name. The sound of pen against paper echoed louder than expected. Ethan watched carefully, as if witnessing something irreversible. When she finished, he extended his hand. Professional. Formal. A deal sealed. She hesitated only a fraction of a second before shaking it. His grip was warm. Steady. Unexpectedly gentle. And in that instant, neither of them realized the truth. This contract wouldn't protect them. It would unravel everything. Because somewhere between lies and loneliness, a fake marriage had just begun, built on secrets strong enough to destroy them both. And the most dangerous secret of all? Lena Hart wasn't just entering Ethan Blackwood's life. She was already part of his past. The world believed Ethan Blackwood had everything. Money beyond imagination, power that moved markets, a name spoken in boardrooms with admiration and fear. Every morning, financial news channels showed his face beside rising stock numbers. Every magazine called him a visionary. Every gala invited him as the centerpiece attraction. But none of them saw the nights. Long after the city dimmed, Ethan remained awake inside his penthouse above Manhattan. The space was enormous, glass walls stretching from floor to ceiling, modern art worth millions hanging in perfect symmetry, furniture chosen by designers who understood luxury but not comfort. The silence echoed. A grand piano sat untouched near the window. A dining table built for 12 had never hosted more than one. The only sound was the soft hum of the city far below, distant enough to feel unreal. Ethan poured himself another glass of whiskey, though he barely tasted it anymore. 3 years earlier, he had learned something permanent. Trust was expensive, and love was catastrophic. His former fiancée hadn't just left him, she had dismantled him. She vanished with proprietary technology that nearly destroyed his company and handed it to competitors overseas. The betrayal didn't just cost money, it rewired him. Since then, Ethan built walls stronger than any security system his company produced. Employees respected him, investors feared disappointing him, the public admired him. But no one truly knew him, and he preferred it that way. Because loneliness hurt less than deception. His schedule was engineered to eliminate emptiness. Morning investor calls. Afternoon acquisitions. Evening charity appearances designed to polish his image. Tonight was one of those events. The Blackwood Foundation Gala glittered like a scene from a movie. Crystal chandeliers reflected across marble floors. A live orchestra played soft jazz while New York's elite moved through the ballroom dressed in designer perfection. Cameras flashed the moment Ethan entered. He smiled on cue. Confident, controlled, untouchable. The performance was flawless. Women approached him with practiced charm. Business leaders shook his hand too eagerly. Journalists waited for quotes that sounded inspirational, but revealed nothing real. Ethan delivered exactly what they expected, nothing more. Across the room, laughter rose like music he couldn't hear. He felt detached, an observer inside his own life. Then he noticed her. Lena Hart stood near the balcony doors, slightly removed from the crowd. She wore a simple black dress that somehow drew more attention than the extravagant gowns around her. No heavy jewelry, no attempt to compete for attention. And yet people looked at her twice, not because she demanded attention, because she didn't. She watched the room the way a strategist watches a chessboard, measured, aware, calculating exits. Ethan recognized the behavior instantly. She didn't belong to high society. She studied it. When their eyes met, she didn't look away like the others. She held his gaze calmly, almost curiously, as if she were trying to understand him rather than impress him. It unsettled him. Lena lifted a champagne glass, but didn't drink. Her reflection shimmered in the balcony glass, overlaying the city skyline behind her. From the outside, she looked perfectly composed. Inside, every second felt deliberate. She tracked security placements without moving her head, counted cameras, noted which executives stayed closest to Ethan. Information layered quietly in her mind. She reminded herself why she was here. Access. Every appearance beside Ethan brought her closer to answers about her brother's disappearance, the encrypted files, the erased investigation, the powerful people who never faced questions. And Ethan Blackwood stood at the center of it all. At least, that's what she believed. Yet watching him now created an uncomfortable doubt. He laughed politely at a donor's joke, but the smile never reached his eyes. There was exhaustion there, loneliness so familiar it almost hurt to see. For a moment, she wondered. No. She stopped the thought immediately. Empathy was dangerous. Attachment was failure. Ethan approached her after escaping another conversation. You look like you're analyzing the room, he said quietly. I am. No denial. He glanced toward the crowd. And your conclusion? That everyone here wants something from you. A faint smile touched his lips. That obvious? Yes. She paused, then added softly, you look tired of giving it to them. The honesty landed harder than expected. For a second, Ethan forgot the cameras, the guests, the performance. He studied her more carefully. There was intelligence behind her calm expression. And something else. Distance. Like she lived slightly outside every moment. What do you want from me, Lena? He asked. The question carried more weight than curiosity. It carried warning. She met his eyes without hesitation. Nothing you didn't already agree to. Technically true, but not the whole truth. A photographer called their names. They turned together instinctively, standing side by side beneath the chandelier light. Flash. To the world, they looked perfect. A powerful billionaire and his elegant new wife. A modern fairy tale. But beneath the image existed two separate storms. Ethan wondered why being near her felt unexpectedly calm. Lena wondered why the man she was supposed to expose didn't feel like an enemy. And somewhere between flashing cameras and whispered conversations, an invisible tension formed, because something about Lena Hart didn't match her story. She knew too much, observed too carefully, and sometimes, when she thought no one noticed, sadness crossed her face, deep and personal, like grief she carried alone.